So Bob will be here shortly. But yeah, it's just no Chase tonight, dude. It's just you and me. You looking like you're feeling a little bit better.
No.
No.
I feel a little better than I did yesterday. What I'm finding is that as the day goes on, you feel worse. You feel worse.
So you need to go back to those high school days of like sleeping till like noon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's fair. That's very, very fair.
Hey, we got questions.
Yeah, Jamie got a question for you right off the bat. I asked him to throw questions in there. So Jamie says, does Gibbs 199, his weight, does that drop him for you?
No, not at all. Solidifies him for me. I mean, there was talk of he might be 185 pounds. His BMI is actually pretty solid. Look, I didn't expect him, and I don't expect him to be a guy that's going to get 20 carries a game in the NFL anyway. But 199, I think that's solid. Look, if he ate one more hamburger and did get food poisoning from it, he's 200 pounds. So I'm not concerned. I like that weight. Considering the alternative.
I'll throw you this question real quick because I think, and I'll ask this question again when Bob gets in here. But the one I was really surprised at was Bryce Young, 204.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I don't think the dude has played a game of football over like 189.
Yeah.
Pumps up to 204.
Yeah. And I forget what I was listening to, but probably one of the athletic pods. And they were talking about like, basically like that's not going to be his playing weight. His playing weight's going to be 190, 195. But for the historical record, he's always going to be a 200-pound plus quarterback. So we get to check that check mark off, and we don't have to be concerned about it. And we can go, no, he's fine. He's over 200 pounds, knowing that he's 200 pounds because that dude ate everything in sight for the past 3 months, and didn't do any drills at the combine.
Yeah. All jokes aside, I think he just drank so much water to get the weight up a little bit because there was nothing he could do getting the size up. He couldn't get any taller because he's like he said, he's been that weight since he was or that height since he was born. So
literally, he never grew any. And just real quick, back to Jahmyr Gibbs' BMI is 29.4. So you like it at 30? It's literally right near 30. So not concerned about it at all. I'm not the first person to talk about it. And trust me, I'm not Captain BMI guy, but your BMI is generally more important than your weight. Now, obviously, if you're 150 pounds and you're only 5'2", well, that's a whole other thing.
Right. But I didn't really think there was a lot of news going to happen coming out of the combine, and then we just got hammered. So there was a little bit of news that came out this week. One of your favorite players, I think, got cut today. Not Terrence Marshall. I almost said Terrence Marshall. What's his name out there in Arizona? They came from Carolina. Didn't they trade?
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, didn't they trade for him last year? They traded for him last year.
Yeah, he changed his name too. I forget what his name is, but did they cut him today? I did not.
I believe so. I think they cut him today, and if I'm not mistaken, they did change his name to Chosen. That's right. Yeah. Toronto Dave, there you are. Yeah, Chosen Anderson.
Yeah, he's not very good. I mean, look, the dude had one outlier season where it looked like he might be something. And then that was it. But yeah, Chosen was not chosen to continue as an Arizona Cardinal. I think they'll be okay. I don't even remember if he had a reception with them, to be honest with you.
I don't remember either myself, to be honest. I don't know that he did.
Possible. 7 receptions for 76 yards and no touchdowns on 17 targets.
Well, I mean, it's 10 yards or 10 and a half yards of reception. I mean, that's pretty good, right?
He was a deep threat. Wasn't that his thing? He's supposed to be a deep threat? Yeah, no. So Robbie Anderson.
And I guess that's why Carolina was like, yeah, we'll get rid of you because they didn't have a quarterback to throw the ball.
Well, that, and there's still talk that they're going to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, and guess who has arrived?
Our
special guest. DeAndre Hopkins. They're talking about trading him anyway, right? So
no, I thought DeAndre Hopkins was showing up, but I'll take Bob.
Wait, Shane. I thought Chase was going to be here.
No, we got the better looking of the two tonight. Me.
As they say, Bob, he's 30,000 feet above us.
Yes, I've heard his lamentations. By the way, I don't like Shane. Just to be clear, I don't like him. I love Shane. Shane is amazing.
Oh, see, I was really hoping this was going to be a battle, to be quite honest. As you said that, Shane has been like, I love Bob. I love Bob. You know, Bob is the greatest. Bob, I love him. And now you come on and immediately say, I don't like Shane. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a show. With no chase, there's going to be no filter. Guys, you ready to get into this?
Let's get into this.
Let's go.
Let's go. I can't even hit the button now.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Fantasy Intervention. I am your host. You can find me at FantasyJ77 over there on Twitter. With me tonight, I have my co-host, Shane Manila, at Shane is the Worst. Sir, how are you tonight?
I'm here. I'm kicking.
Yeah, well, you've been sick the last few days.
Yes.
And as soon as I said to you, no boss, no chase, you were like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely going to be on. Because we have a very special guest at Football Diehards, Sirius XM host, Mr. Bob Harris. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Any better, I'd have to mess something up just to keep the karma in line. I don't like to get too out of whack there. It's going fantastic, man. It's been an exciting week. There's a lot going on. And Dame Overboard's here. What else could be better?
And Dame popped in. I jumped on your show a little bit ago just to pop in to see how everybody was doing and check on what you were doing. And you copied my show sheet, I think. No, that's not.
I think the show sheets were written for all of us this week.
I think the show sheets absolutely got written for all of us because I was really thinking after the combine we really weren't going to have a ton of news to talk about.
What?
And well, just combine news, and then all of a sudden it was like, Derek Carr gets signed and everybody was like, boom, 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 let's go, let's go.
So part of the combine deal is like the GMs or the important people get together and they get to collude against Lamar Jackson, right? So things like that. So every year something comes out.
This is not collusion. This is not collusion.
No, it's just I found it convenient that at 11:59 the Ravens go, we're non-exclusively tagging him, and at 11:59:01 every team in the league said, oh no, we have no interest in it.
Right. So hang on one second, Bob. Hang on one second, because Bob brought this up on his show previously, and I'm not going to ask you to explain it exactly the same way. But Bob, please explain the Lamar Jackson situation and why these teams are not.
So 4 teams have come out and said, without somebody's name on it, teams being somebody with the team has told a reporter who asked somebody with the team if they were interested. And why the hell would anyone who's interested say they're interested right now? Why not just wait and see how it plays out? And to me, though, this is like, Baltimore stepped out. They just basically said, all right, we've been banging our head against this Lamar Jackson wall for 25 months now. It's not going the way we want. We're not sure he's being realistic in his demands. So let's give him a dose of reality and let every other team make an offer and see who, and so as soon as they did this, I mean, obviously one of the range of possible outcomes includes, Lamar Jackson is not a Raven in 2023. It's possible. I think more likely is a bunch of teams make him offer somewhere in a range similar, maybe even less than what the Ravens have been willing to give him, maybe slightly more, whatever it is. But it's basically crowdsourcing your negotiation, saying, hey, everyone throw out your money and we'll see. And if we want to beat it, we'll beat it. And maybe they will want to beat it. So my only worry is him, if things are going along and he's, stuck playing on the tag, how bought in he'll be in the offseason where he needs to learn a new offense. and figure out who his wide receivers are, because apparently they don't have those guys.
Well, I mean, if he stays in Baltimore, Baltimore is after the combine was pretty much it's a given. Jackson Smith and Jigba's getting drafted there from everything we're hearing, right? And
I thought he looked great. I thought he was the wide receiver that really stood out to me. I know, again, I will go ahead and acknowledge right now, I am not a draftnik. I don't pretend to be a draftnik. I don't watch college football because I cover the NFL, people. It's my job. I do that, and then I get caught up, and I'm in the process of catching up, and there's a lot of really smart people I listen to. Shane is one of them. And I try to sort things out, and then also I start, paying a little more attention. I watched them all run around in their undershorts at the combine. It was fantastic, very enjoyable as always. See way more than I need to see. But also, Smith and Jigba stood out to me. A couple guys stood out to me. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't know if we're talking about this fellow enough. I mean, we are. I mean, he's obviously way up there, but, everyone's so focused on Bijan Robinson, and I guess with good reasons, but I wouldn't be overlooking that Gibbs fellow.
Yeah, so real quick, Bob, let's go back to a previous question that was up here. These the 199 weight. Does that drop him at all? Shane is of the opinion, and I am, I guess, as well, that actually solidifies him.
It doesn't worry me too much. I mean, we've seen backs succeed at that size. I know my guy, John Lobb, sometimes has a little issue with that, but you're right there. I mean, go eat a sandwich, Jahmyr. Make it 201.
Make it 201. That's right.
I think that sub 4.4 speaks volumes. So to me, I mean, there's, two things in the NFL: size and speed, right? And you can't coach either of those. And he has more than half of that than everyone else. And I think he'll figure the other half out.
Right. So speaking of the size, the Bryce Young weighed in at 204, 5'10", and I'll give him the 8th, I guess. Maybe it was the shoes that gave him the 8th. Hell, the shoes may have gave him the 10 inches. I don't know.
If he was in the shoes when they measured him, he would have been 5'12".
That's 6 foot.
Well, there you go.
It is. So Bryce Young, 204. I don't think I've ever seen him play at over 180, 89 maybe. What do you think there, Bob? 204?
I'm way more impressed with some of the other ones. I've seen a series of quarterbacks that size not fare that well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's got tiny hands. Kenny Pickett says that's okay. I don't know.
Kenny Pickett wears gloves.
I'm not going to go overboard on the quarterback situations. He's not my favorite, but I mean, I'm looking at I'm kind of pinned to the prototypical appearance. Will Levis looks like he fits the bill. Anthony Richardson looks like he could leap over tall buildings in a single bound. In fact, I believe I saw him do that. I'm told he is maybe not the best passer in all football, but this is a guy without a lot of experience. And, that maybe he just needs a little time and a little seasoning. I don't know if, marinating on a bench for a little while is in his future, but that might work out for him. But I mean, anytime you have a player with that kind of athleticism, I think it's unwise to dismiss him.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Anthony Richardson, and as me being a Gator fan, I have watched every single game of his in college, and my concern with Anthony Richardson was, of course, the off-target throws. I go back and look at the film.
And yes, I'm not a scout, but I will. But I go
back and look at the film, and
it's bad.
It's feet work. It's his footwork. It's footwork. He's not ready. And then what I saw, and of course now we're talking about underwear Olympics. Nobody's rushing him. He doesn't have to worry about anything like that. But his footwork at the combine was 10 times better than it was in the game last year. So that I will give Richardson that.
The thing about that is though what happens when the bullets are flying at you, right? Your body has muscle memory. It's a real thing. You revert to your instincts, and your instincts are, my footwork is terrible, and guess what I'm going to do? Now, can it be unlearned? Sure. Mm-hmm. But I'd feel a lot better if it wasn't a giant concern, the fact that, he's bad at completing passes as a quarterback.
Question for you, Shane, though. So comparatively speaking, where was Josh Allen in terms of accuracy when he came into the NFL?
Anthony Richardson, I looked that up.
Okay,
last
so
week, but he was.
there was a stat out there. 54% is what Anthony Richardson was.
I think he's the
completion
worst
rate.
out of him, Hurts, and one of the other bigger gentlemen I looked up.
Yeah, it was bad in college. 54%, I think it was.
Yeah. And, but Josh Allen, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts are both guys that when they came into the league, people are like, I don't know that this dude can complete a pass. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? And they learned it. But I feel like those guys are more the exception than the rule, even though they've both done it in the recent past. So it's easy to remember them. But then you remember, we're old. So guys like Jamarcus Russell, you know what I mean?
Oh, please.
He had a cannon for an arm, and he had other issues like he liked lean, but whatever.
Right.
But there's a ton of guys that are just big like that never learn how to play quarterback.
I think that's the thing. I think he acknowledged. I heard him. Who was he talking to? Was it Mariucci? I saw on NFL Network talking, and he acknowledged that his footwork is probably the weakness, the thing that he needs to work on. So if nothing else, at least he knows what he needs to work on. And I mean, if I'm hanging around him, I'm saying like, okay, we've seen players in the recent past get better. It's something that's way overlooked in the NFL. Coaching is pretty good, right, in general. And, if you land with the right coach, it's probably better than just really good. It's probably great. So, we've seen a lot of, over the course of time. I keep thinking like Chase Edmonds when he came to the league and could not pass block to save his life. Now he's a pretty damn good pass blocker, right? So, players get better with time and experience. And I think that's, if you're drafting Richardson, you have to view him as a little bit of a project. I think.
And you're viewing him as a lottery ticket because look,
the
floor could be he's never anything for you in fantasy. All right, yep. That's the same floor as literally any player you take. The probability is not the same, but obviously that's the floor for any player. His upside isn't rivaled by nearly anyone. Like there's not anyone that I can even think of that rivals him. I guess Justin Fields, except Justin Fields isn't as good as a runner as him. And he doesn't have as strong an arm as Anthony Richardson. So if he actually puts it together, like he doesn't even need to hit his full ceiling to be absolutely elite. He just needs to near it. He needs to be good enough. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. He's definitely going to be that risk reward type player you take. I'm debating. It's like I'm going super safe with CJ Stroud, where I'm just going balls out and going Anthony Richardson. Like I wouldn't go Will Levis. Everyone keeps yelling at me. I say his name wrong all the time.
Levis.
I said it on purpose wrong, and now I can't say it correctly.
So when I do that, I do that all the time.
So I still have CJ Stroud as my QB1 out of this class. And I have moved Anthony Richardson up to QB2 with Young being QB3 now. The reason I moved Young back, of course, is nothing has changed for him except the fact that he didn't do anything at the combine other than weigh in. That again could change come pro days. But the upside when you're drafting that early, in your rookie draft, it is you're wanting upside, right? And there is no ceiling that we have seen, at least that I know of, with Anthony Richardson.
So what are those of us who are in stupid leagues where you draft before the draft do? You know what I'm talking about,
yeah.
Shane.
Well, and that's where I was going with that.
Don't do that.
That's exactly where I was going with that, because it's something Bob said a minute ago is the landing spot is truly going to matter for Anthony Richardson. Because, for instance, if he goes to Houston and isn't expected to start right away, there's going to be more issues in 6 weeks.
I'll tell you what, if Houston would be one of the places I'd be okay with him landing, because I don't think they would send him out there week one, because they just hired their coach for 6 years. And they're like, we're not doing this every year again, where we're just going through quarterbacks. If he ended up in, where's Frank Reich now? Carolina, something like that.
That would definitely be one he did be starting.
What I would say to Bob, is someone that drafted Malik Willis 101 in a league last year, is maybe listen to the real NFL people a little more than your fantasy heart, right?
Yes.
The real NFL people were telling us left and right last year, like, I don't know what it is you think you see in Malik Willis. It's not here, and he's not going to be drafted at 2 overall. And we're like, no, you don't understand his fantasy upside. And they're like, they don't play fantasy in the NFL, doofus. And you're like, I'm taking him at 101.
Right. But when Josh Dobbs gets that second start over him, that pretty much was the nail in that.
Yeah, and they signing Josh Dobbs off the street to start over you. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
So I'd say listen to the drum beat. Put a couple of real NFL podcasts in your rotation. Just a couple, not too many.
I hate that.
Most of those guys are meatheads and they talk about things that aren't important, like non-fantasy related, but just a couple.
So moving on to the running backs. I mean, what did y'all think about Roschon Johnson? I'll be honest, I have not watched it yet. I've still got a couple things I've got to do tonight as far as breaking down some film and cutting up some tape. And Roschon Johnson is on that list tonight. So, Bob, what did you think of Roschon Johnson with his scouting combine? Of course, him as a player too.
Eyeball test wise, he looks the part. I mean, that's as far as I'm at with him. He was a guy that kind of stood out, a little bit more than maybe some of the other players, and got on my radar. So I'll look into him more. Again, basically, outside the top guys, I'm kind of like who's catching my attention. He was one of the guys that caught my attention.
Yeah, Shane, you got to hit the unmute, Shane.
Yeah, I don't know why I do this. I put this on mute nowadays because I'm usually cursing under my breath.
But it's Bob, so you're not going to be yelling at him about it.
Well, yes, he is. You think he doesn't yell at me?
So this is where I'm at with any second, third tier running backs. I don't care until the NFL draft tells me what I should think of them. You know what I mean? Like the older I get, the less attached I am to players, especially before the draft. Like, who cares? I you know what I mean? Like, good. He had a good combine. Apparently, he could have been very good if he didn't have to sit behind the greatest running back and one of the greatest running backs in college football history. But if all that to say, and the NFL's like, yeah, he's a fifth rounder, I don't care much at all about him because I know he's not going to, based off of historical comps, he's never going to really turn out to be much of anything. So I want to see where he ends up in the draft.
I think you look, this is, something I've said, and it's a stupid cliche, but it's true. I mean, put a helmet on him and I'm going to be, that's when I start really getting an interest in it. Like, I want to have some context and understand what kind of schemes they played in, what kind of schemes they fit in. So when that helmet goes on them, I know if they're a viable, piece in that puzzle. Usually they are, because that's why they get drafted. But I mean, I'm with Brett Veach on this one. You're going to draft somebody in the 7th round who might be just every bit as good as the guys that are going early. And you never know with running backs. That's why the value is so cheap. And if I wanted to break out the list of guys who have come out of nowhere, over the course of the history of my fantasy football playing career, I mean, let's go back. Alandis Gary, Mike Anderson, Dominic Davis, Nick Going, Steve Slayton, Peyton Hillis, Arian Foster, Justin Forsett, CJ Anderson, David Johnson, CJ Anderson again with the Rams, Alex Collins in Baltimore. Every year there's somebody who is going to win you a title that you didn't draft at that position. And that's why we don't place that. That's why teams don't place that kind of value on the position that, and that's why like I think Bijan Robinson is probably a top 10 talent. Will he go in the top 10? I don't know.
I've seen several mocks where that's where he ends up in the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I
number
see too.
10.
Look, I've talked to a bunch of beat writers over the last couple months, and pretty much every beat writer mentions his name, and that goes all the way like through the Chargers, the Eagles. I mean, you name it, teams that you wouldn't think would be interested. And we've heard the talk with Dallas. I mean, I think, there's a reason when you hear guys, called generational talents, people pay attention, but also at the position, it's a pretty transitory position. So we'll see. I mean, I hope he does go high, and I hope he goes to a team where he gets a clear path to workload. I'm a volume chaser, and I hope he gets all of it. So looking for that, but we'll see.
You know what I'll say is, in a deep running back class like this, right? Because there's a lot of running backs that are going to hold value, and a lot of running backs are going to hold value at some point next year, and you're not going to know who they are. Like Bob's saying, it's not going to be it's going to be a Chase Brown, it's going to be a Tajay Spears, it's going to be Roschon Johnson, it's going to be 3, 4, 5 other guys you have no idea right now. Dude, this is a great draft to have a ton of 2nd round picks and 3rd round picks, and just decimate the running back position every time you're up. You know what I mean? Unless for some reason there's a wide receiver that went in the 1st round that fell into the 2nd round of your rookie draft, just keep slamming running back and you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question too. Is you have those 2nd round picks, you're just gonna continue dart throws at running backs and just go after that, right?
Yeah, Yeah. And here's the thing. So usually, and I don't like reaching for players. Usually I'm just like, look, best player available. It's a rookie draft. You shouldn't be trying to draft to fill needs in a rookie draft anyway. That's how you draft Malik Willis at 101. But generally in the second round of rookie drafts anyway, it just so happens running backs end up being the best player available. So even if it's tied at this point, it's like, all right, slightly into the running back,
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some of this news. But before we do, if you are enjoying this, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, and absolutely share this video with your friends and your family. And as Shane would say, as soon as you get done sharing it with your friends and family, go onto your kids' account, like, share, subscribe on their account.
Mm-hmm.
Go to your other kid's account, like, share, subscribe.
Your mistress.
Your mistress, which Shane knows all about. That's how Shane has so many followers right now. It's all the mistresses.
Whatever the male version of a mistress is. It's just all of them. Just all of your lovers. Just go on all your lovers' accounts. I don't care.
All right, so real quick to wrap up the combine, one player that stood out to you the most. Bob, let's start with you.
I mean, Richardson's the obvious answer, but I'm going to go with Gibbs. I like the speed.
Look, I don't want to be all chalky, right? But
I want you to go non-chalk here, Shane.
Well, too bad. I loved watching Bijan in drills. I got to be honest with you. I really loved. I'll say this: I loved watching most of the running backs in drills. Like it was really like you're like, oh, these guys are good. Like you could tell the difference. You know what I mean? I was a little annoyed and Evan Hall scoring on every play. Like it was cute the first time. By the second or third time, I was kind of hoping he would trip. Not getting but I did kind of hope he would fall.
But once you plant that flag, I mean, you kind of got to keep carrying it, right?
Yeah. So JSN, he solidified the wide receiver one role. Look, coming into the combine, we're like, I don't know if it's Addison, Quentin Johnston, or him. And now I don't think there's a doubt about it. It's JSN, which is hilarious because the one thing people question on him is his speed. And the only drill he didn't run was the 40.
Right.
But,
honestly, I get that we all want to know the 40 time and everything, but when you watch film and you can say, oh, look, he separates from these guys who look pretty fast as well. They get it figured out, and we'll see what happens at his pro days, etc. I mean, we love to focus on that number. I do. I mean, like I just admitted it with Gibbs, but still, I mean, I think there's sometimes people's play, you just have to say, oh, wow, look, he actually gets open. That works.
Yeah, I think the one that stood out to me is, of course, like you said, we going chalk here, was Anthony Richardson. But I truly loved what C.J. Stroud did. He was precise on just about every single pass. And again, we're talking about underwear Olympics, so that is what it is.
By the way, I'm in my underwear right now.
As long as you're not in the underwear waist up, you're good. Yeah, I don't want to see the panties on the head kind of thing, Bob. I don't want to see that. I don't think anybody else
Shane has seen that and he liked it.
Well, Shane likes Walmart too.
I'm in a lot of weird things. Whatever.
Parking lots. Oh Lord. Well, I want to get into some of what Bob had going on in his show. So if you haven't checked out what Bob was doing earlier this evening over there on Football Diehards, go check that out when you get done with this. But we had a lot of action, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I guess today is Wednesday, so we haven't had a ton of action, but we had a lot of action Monday and Tuesday. Derek Carr is back with Bruce Allen as his head coach. The head coach that drafted him with the Raiders. I'm sorry, I said Bruce. It is Dennis. Bruce Allen. Wow.
Bruce Allen?
There's an old name for you.
Bruce Allen was is that George Allen's son?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I brought back the old school. I'm sorry, Shane. You wouldn't even. That's
check
old.
his emails.
That was Bruce with the what do you call this? The Commandos. Yeah. Okay.
It is Dennis Allen who is the head coach over there at the Saints. So they have reunited. So I want to start with Bob on this. What does it mean for the Saints offense? Let's assume that Kamara does not get suspended, right? So he's on the team. I mean, it could be a 2-week suspension. It could be a 6-week suspension for what we know. So, what does it do for Olave, Kamara, and even our guy Jacob Sanderson's favorite tight end, Juwan Johnson.
Johnson.
Yes. So what does it do for these guys?
I mean, like, it's not bad news for Chris Olave, right? I mean, we've seen Derek Carr drive the fantasy values of players like, most recently, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. In past, we've seen Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree fare well. I mean, I think this is a good landing spot for the associated pieces. Derek Carr's situation or issues are he's very good and not great, right? So, I mean, but in this league, how many great quarterbacks are there? The realm of very good is if you're a team and you have a very good quarterback, you're pretty damn happy, unless you're the Raiders, and apparently you don't think he's very good. I think he'll be perfectly suitable there, and he'll keep the value of the pieces we're interested in, whether that is, I think the days of Alvin Kamara, going back to the Drew Brees era where, it was like 100 targets and 80 catches every damn year, that's just over. I don't think we're going to see that anymore, and I don't think Derek Carr changes that. But for pieces like Chris Olave, if you're out there and you're drafting him in best balls right now as fairly reasonable price wide receiver too, I mean, I think he has upside to get you some top 10 weeks on occasion. And I think Derek Carr can fuel that fire. And also I'm kind of keen on Juwan Johnson, although I was on him like 2 years ago. The totally fanciest thing ever is, drafting tight ends a year or two before they're actually a thing. And I was all about that. And I'd like to get some more of them this year when he actually has a chance to get something done with Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think everyone has rostered every tight end in the NFL at some point or another because, we all went, this guy's 6'4", he runs a 4.5, he's a matchup nightmare. Like, as soon as we see that, we're like, I'm drafting him in the third round. No one will ever expect this. And then he doesn't produce in one rookie season, and we're like, I'm done with this guy. I'm finding the next one. But I'm a Chris Olave stan. So I'm ecstatic for this move for him. I think it's great. But I also generally think great players are agnostic to the players around them. Like, as long as you don't give them something so bad that they can't overcome it.
Like, say, Andy Dalton or James Darnold.
Right? And Andy Dalton, who PFF, for what it's worth, had ranked very highly as a quarterback. I'm not sure what went into those metrics, like red hair, maybe. I'm not sure. But I would say he's not an elite quarterback. I'd say Derek Carr is, I think, an improvement upon him. So, I love it for Olave. If they bring Johnson back, because I don't know if he's a restricted free agent or a free agent, I like that for him. I mean, Derek Carr, we saw what he did with Waller, not comparing the two.
I think we need to figure out what Michael Thomas is or isn't anymore. I mean, on it, I know everyone thinks he's washed, and he may well be, but it was 3 games, 3 touchdowns. I mean, and then her. So I don't know. We'll see how washed he is. I mean, if he's dirt cheap and he's playing, I'll probably grab some shares of that.
Yeah, I'm not falling for that. I had the chair pulled out on me last year. I did that. I was like, this time he means it. He's going to be back. And then, he started doing well. And I was like, see, Michael Thomas.
And then you missed your trade window.
Yeah.
It's got to be free. It's got to be, totally a freebie, a free score play. And he may end up being that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Raiders tagged Josh Jacobs. I think we all saw this coming. I think they still have a big hole at QB. But what are they going to do in your opinion? Is it? I mean, the news comes out today that Rodgers is talking to the Jets. That conversation is being had. I mean, are they going to go and draft? What do you think, Shane?
They're at 9 right now. Is that right?
I think they're at 9.
Yeah. So, as of before the combine, I was on NFL mock draft database because I'm a nerd, and they had Anthony Richardson landing there. I don't know if any of the quarterbacks are going to land to them there, and they might be in a situation where they're just like, all right, well, we're not going to draft Hendon Hooker here, so we're going to run it back with Jarrett Stidham. We're going to do the whole Texans thing that they did, and just build up assets, and then next year, hopefully, we're high enough to get Caleb Williams or Drake May or whichever quarterback besides those two separates himself from the pack. Maybe Spencer Rattler next year. That'll be a 5th-year senior. Maybe he'll be ready to play in the NFL. But I think they're going to be out of reach at quarterback, and I don't think they have the assets to move up to get to where they can make a decision at quarterback.
I think Jimmy G is going to be on their radar. I mean, he'll be on it. He's a fallback. I've talked to people who cover the team on the daily who have, kind of basically said the hierarchy is Rodgers, then Garoppolo. Brady Rodgers than Garoppolo, but apparently kittens take precedent. Or we'll see. Anyway, so like I think for Josh Jacobs, I mean second most touches per game in the league last year. I mentioned the volume chasing. I will continue to chase that volume. I mean, he's no different than last year. He's once again a 1-year rental, a more expensive rental this time. But that doesn't lead me to believe. I mean, he was 340 carries last year. Expect more of the same. The forecast calls for a busy season, and turns out when he's busy, he's very productive. I'm all in on this. I think this is the ideal outcome. A long-term deal. Maybe they have reason to protect him some and maybe lighten the workload a little bit and mix it up. I think we've seen the Patriot way at times. Is we think of it as a running back by committee, but when they have a running back, they were not in the past afraid to use that running back like a true feature back, and we saw that last year. I expect more of that going forward.
And after all that smoke in the preseason, Amir Abdullah is going to be James White West. And, I forget, there was a couple other running backs. They brought over Brandon Bolden. And you're like, oh, and they didn't tag him or they didn't give him the 5th year. You're like, I don't know that he's going to get a ton of work. Oh, they played him with the starters into the second quarter of the Hall of Fame Bowl. Only thing is I hate chasing previous production. He is a 25-year-old running back. You know how I feel about elderly running backs. So I wouldn't mind pivoting off of him. The problem is most people in Dynasty are of the same thought line. They're like, I'm not going to give you a high draft pick. I'm not giving you the 104 for Josh Jacobs. He's old. And you're like, well, yeah, he's 25. And you're like, yeah, but you've explained to us before why he's old. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's probably one of those situations where you're just going to have to hold him on your roster. If you can get him 109, 110 rookie draft pick, something like that, I'd feel more comfortable sticking him in there than, I don't know, Marvin Mims or whoever I'm getting in the draft at that point.
So I got a question right here, and I'm going to try to interpret this because it says A-Rich or 17, 2023 first. I'm assuming this is A-Rich or the 107.
No. I think it's 20. He was saying 17, 23 first.
In a 12-team Superflex, you get 17 first.
Okay. Well, he's that good. He's that good. He had his combine. He cured cancer during some of the interviews.
So you're still taking Anthony Richardson over all 17, 23 first that Ridley Truther has here.
Yeah, it's several first short for me. I need at least 20 first for Anthony Richardson.
It's a Superflex.
Yeah, it is a Superflex. So yeah, you'd have to do that. Yeah. Maine says traded an early and late first and Christian Watson for Deshaun Watson. What are your thoughts there, Bob?
I mean, I don't know how early that first is, but I can't be mad at it because, we do the Dynasty Trades in 5 show a lot. And what are we always talking about? I love rookie picks. You know what I love more than rookie picks? Trading them for established players that I know are really, really good. Deshaun Watson, despite his 4 games not being stupendous last year, his entire career he's been like nothing worse than a QB8.
Right.
So
coming off a long layoff, like look at there were games last year that gave us an indication where this was going, right? Where we saw them go pass heavy, like we think of Kevin Stefanski as a run first guy, until there were games where he was not run heavy, and Nick Chubb managers were really pissed off when he got like 12 carries, in games as we went down the stretch when Watts was back. I think this is, probably going to be a big rebound year for Deshaun Watson and the pieces around him. I would do that.
Yeah, Dame says, don't forget the baby that he delivered. I don't know if that was at the combine or if that was after the combine.
Actually, I think he cloned it during one of the interviews. He cloned a baby.
So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, because he did have some good interviews, as was said. Yeah. So real quick, I got a question because I'll talk about Daniel Jones here in a minute. He got a 4-year, $160 million deal. Would you rather have on your fantasy team or in real life Daniel Jones or Derek Carr? Because Derek Carr got a 4-year, $150. I don't know it's only $10 million, but $10 million's a good chunk of change to me. But as a fantasy owner, I'm thinking I would probably rather have Derek Carr.
I mean, we saw Daniel Jones upside last year, right? It's a top 8 quarterback. Derek Carr doesn't have that rushing ability. He
Derek
just
Carr
doesn't.
doesn't run.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
yeah, and I'm not a big fan of Daniel Jones, and I think last year was an outlier. But even if it wasn't, like his worst seasons prior to that were like QB 15 and QB 17, outside of I think his rookie years like QB 24, which doesn't count.
It's the rushing ability that sets him apart, and also, I'm gonna just like. I heard Brian Dable is the NFL Coach of the Year. There's probably a reason for that. Also, I think back to the other quarterbacks that he's coached, or at least the last one he coached prior to Daniel Jones, ended up making great strides under his tutelage. Perhaps Daniel Jones can make similar strides, especially with a little more offensive line and maybe a receiving core. Who knows?
I know, and that's the thing too, right? And look, I just talked about how I don't like how players, like, you shouldn't depend on situation to make a player better. But you look at Daniel Jones' situation last year with the wide receivers.
It's horrible.
That's as bad as I've ever seen it.
Right.
Kenny Galladay, he lost Sterling Shepard.
Isaiah Hodgins comes in off the street, essentially off the Bills, got cut off the Bills practice squad. Right, we're cut off the Bills. We're getting ready to re-sign with the practice squad when they came and rescued him, and he turned into a pretty good player. But Richie James, I mean, like it was a ragtag assemblage at best. So I think it can only get better, even if Kenny Galladay is not there. I think they'll somehow figure it out.
Yeah. So that ties into my next question. Is 5 years ago, 6 years ago, as fantasy managers, we were sitting here wanting that pocket passer, and now it's upside with the rushing attack, right? So I think that's the way. Not only the NFL, but also as fantasy, we need. Going back to a comment that was made earlier by both of you, we have to, as fantasy managers, watch what the NFL is telling us what they want, and if that's what they want, that's what we have to have as well. So if they want rushing quarterbacks, we have to go that way. And that's the other thing that worries me with like a Bryce Young. He's a smaller inside the pocket passer for the most part. He does have some escapability, but we shall see when it comes to the NFL. Dallas, the Cowboys tag Pollard. I guess we all knew that was going to happen as well, but I'm a little surprised, I guess, at the same time that they went ahead and did that. Shane, are you surprised that they tagged him?
No, but mostly because I read like 2 weeks ago, and they said if they didn't sign him, they were probably going to tag him. And also and I know this is just recent, Mike McCarthy, some of his comments over the last week or so, where he talks about he doesn't want the number one offense in football. He wants a ball control offense because he's a dinosaur. I don't know if he said that last part, but I think he might have. No, this is what they want to do. They don't like. Real quick, don't expect CeeDee Lamb to get 160 targets next year. You're going to see a whole lot of Tony Pollard and the ghost of Zeke for some reason. And if not Zeke, then maybe Leonard Fournette, someone that's a little less crusty. So no, I'm not surprised. But look, tagging running backs is great finance. It's what, 10 million, 11 million,
it's
12 million.
Skill player.
Yeah.
10.3 million. Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense not to do it. Like, I would, if I owned an NFL team, clearly I don't, but if I did, I would tag the running back every year. You would never get a long-term deal out of me.
What would your super yacht be called?
Wow. Yeah, this is how you know I'm not rich, because
the Cowboys tag somebody every damn year. You knew it was coming. Yeah. And I guess the question, for me is who's playing alongside him. We'll see. Right now, Ezekiel Elliott's going to get paid the franchise tag amount. I don't think he's going to end up getting paid that much. They can save like $5 million by cutting him. I think they'll work something out so he's around a little cheaper. I think that's the ideal situation. We heard all last year where I know Skip Pete is gone, the running backs coach, who kind of was the voice of that. Like, we only want him to get 30 snaps, he being Tony Pollard. But if you look at Pollard again, the yards after contact were great. It's well over 3 yards, after contact, and a really good average, 5 yards per carry. So. Even if they limit him, he was very effective last season in that role, and I think he'll be very effective again. And just going, taking that step further. I mean, whatever you think of Mike McCarthy, you go back to his offenses in Green Bay; they were pretty damn productive. Whether and I know I had a comment on my last live stream that it wasn't one of the complaints that he didn't use the running backs enough. Well, they did just fine. They were league leaders in scoring and yardage every year, and so I think he'll figure something out. With Tony Pollard, who's a super playmaking threat. And I think that's the key in this league. You got these guys that can do a little something on their own and make plays, and he's one of them.
Yeah, the sad part about that, excuse me, is one thing that Shane just said there is you could just tag the running back, and like Bob said, it's the cheapest one. So you've got a player like Bijan, for instance. He's going to go in the first round. They're going to pick up his 5th-year option, and then they're going to tag him for 2 years, or he'll never see that second contract. And that's the sad part about some of these positions as a as a human, I guess.
It's awful. I mean, like, trust me, I hate owners. Like, I hate NFL owners. I'm so against management. I'm a flaming liberal, so I hate all management, even though I'm in management in real life. I hate management. Fuck the man. I'm always rooting for the players. And, like, if the players decided tomorrow that they weren't going to play a full year until they all got guaranteed contracts, I'd live without football for a year and be okay with it.
Yeah, I just want to be the first one to say, at least on this live stream, congratulations, Geno Smith, 3 years.
Yeah.
What, $105 million?
Yep.
Well deserved, in my opinion.
I think so. I mean, comeback player of the year for a reason. Led the league in passing completion percentage, well over 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. But more important, and right now, I mean, in best balls, buy him while he's cheap. He's like quarterback 18 in the best balls I'm playing, I think on the best ball 10s that I've been doing. But beyond that, I mean, DK Metcalf is when you're not going to get last year's discount. Just a memo to everyone, a little reminder. However bad you think the quarterback situation is going to be, Shane alluded to this earlier, it's not that bad, right? I mean, going into the season, where were you drafting DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett? Where were you drafting Amari Cooper? I mean, even the worst NFL quarterbacks still throw the ball. It's just like, the worst offenses in the NFL still produce something. So don't shy away too much. But you're not going to get those discounts on DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett this year.
No, and this is, look, and this is the fun part of Dynasty. Tyler Lockett's old, so no one. That's the one thing about Tyler Lockett, though, right? People have never really paid his worth. He's one of those players where you could always get him for cheaper than you should have. But you can throw out a second and someone will be like, yeah, here's Tyler Lockett. And you're like, are you sure? He's top 15 wide receiver. Like every year he plays. And they're like, yeah, but he's old. And you're like, but you've been saying that for 4 years. But DK Metcalf was such a buy last year because there was nothing that
right.
There was nothing like, even if he came out and had a horrible season with Geno Smith, you go, all right, well, Geno Smith isn't going to be there the next year. Like it was going to rebound. So hopefully people that I like got some DK Metcalf in their portfolio. And if I don't like you, I hope that you trade it anyway.
Calvin Ridley reinstated. How do you like that there, Shane? I know you're a big, T-Law fan and you just love having him some weapons. So tell me all about this Ridley, being reinstated and how many weapons is T-Law going to have down there in Jacksonville now?
I still want them to draft a wide receiver. Is that being greedy? I mean, so they also brought back Evan Ingram.
Well, they put him on the tag, right? So yeah, he's on the tag.
Evan Ingram, you're adding Calvin Ridley to that offense, which I really, really love. I mean, look, Zay Jones was your wide receiver 2 last year, right? And not to disparage Zay Jones, he's your wide receiver 3 this year. And I know that's like, oh, well, it's just one number. Yeah, but think about it in terms of like what the Eagles did. Devonta Smith was the wide receiver 1, 2 years ago. Last year, he was their wide receiver 2. Like there is a difference.
Who caught more passes than their wide receiver 1.
Yeah. And there is a difference. And Calvin Ridley, very good player. Look, I know he's been off for, 2 years gambling or whatever, but I'm super stoked for T-Law. Ridley's a guy that like I've been telling people I think he's going to be a top 15 wide receiver in production next year. Mm-hmm. Like I have no doubt about it, assuming he plays the whole season.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think with the weapons that are there, I think there shouldn't be any fear that he could be and should be a top, wide receiver 2. Bob, thoughts?
I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's funny, I haven't seen him going, especially high. He's probably been going in that 3 wide receiver 3 range. I think that'll obviously hadn't been reinstated until this week, so that'll probably change. I'll gamble on him.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so we talked about Daniel Jones getting a 4-year deal. The New York Giants tag Saquon Barkley. I was having a discussion with Nate, and I'm going to pronounce his last name completely wrong, but it's Provost.
Yeah, you said it right.
So
Provost.
I was
Hold up.
I was having a conversation with him the other day on Twitter, and we were talking about, of course, the Lamar Jackson tagging and then the Barkley tagging. With and everybody's so hyped on this Lamar, tagging, and if he decides to go to another team, the other team gives up 2 first in order to sign him with the sheet, right? The same thing happens with Barkley at this point, is from what Nate was telling me.
Sure.
Is that correct, Bob?
Yes, that is correct, but no one's going to do that for a running back.
Correct. I get that, but I mean, there's
they're
an
all
opportunity.
non-exclusive. Everybody this year, all 6 players who got tagged got non-exclusive tags. There are no exclusive tags.
So, what do you think about the Barkley getting tagged? Is there a chance for him to reproduce his rookie season and then get basically a second deal from the Giants or another team?
No, but yes to half of that. That he might reproduce his rookie season, but nobody's going to pay him after that. But either way, I mean, if you're, I thought going into last season, I was a little bit off Barkley, just hadn't shown the explosiveness that we'd seen in the past, and he regained it, to agree. I thought, the 10 and 20-yard carries returned, but also the offense got better. And I think, going into the season, I thought with Brian Dable there, this offense is going to get better. I didn't think it would be as better. It was better than I thought. Right. And I think my expectations this year gets a little better still, but there were times Saquon got beat up. There was a brief spell where he disappeared. But as long as he's healthy and locked in, that has not been his history, but that's okay. I'm injury agnostic. I don't care. That doesn't have chronic injuries, so to speak. Even players who are chronically injured, if it's not a chronic injury, I will dive in and redraft for best balls, and I'll be all in on Barkley. I'm hoping they work on the offensive line. I'm hoping the offense continues to improve. And if it makes strides similar to what it made last year, there's going to be a lot of pieces that we're interested in. And Barkley's going to be one I'm definitely willing to invest in at the right point. And look, he's going in the first round, so be prepared. And just remember, man, you're drafting the first round. Everyone you're drafting, and redraft anyway, you're drafting at their ceiling. So if they fall short, don't be surprised. It happens all the time, says Jonathan Taylor and many other people, because we're drafting at the ceiling. We need them to deliver at that ceiling. But I think Barkley is in a good position to do that.
Anything to add there, Shane?
No, man, I gave up on the guy. I was like, look, after all these lower body injuries, he's probably dead. That's poor use term. He's probably not going to be able to bounce back for fantasy. Clearly showed me I was incorrect. So now I have no reason to doubt him again. Like Bob said, he's in a much better offense with a better play caller, a better offensive mind. It's incredible what that can do for your career.
Yeah. So we got this question in the chat here. Where do you guys see Levis in dynasty quarterback rankings this time next year? We'll start with you, Bob.
I should disqualify myself because I look at him and he just looks like the total prototypical quarterback. So I'd be way over investing because I don't know enough about him yet. But I'll say this. I mean, I think if I'm projecting this out to next year, I need to know what team he's on, right? I mean, I just don't think we have enough information to say that. I do think he's going to go, fairly early. He's going to be one of those top 4 or 5 guys to go, and he'll, depending on the opportunity, if he gets on the field, I like how he looks. I like how he throws the ball. I like a lot about him, and maybe more than I should. So I'm trying not to be overly enthusiastic.
Shane?
I don't know. Can I just push out and be like, I don't know, QB 12?
I mean, I think that's a fair statement, though, because like Bob said, I think, if you're trying to project out, we have to know what team he's on, what weapons are around him. What does his coaching staff look like?
I'm just trying to place him in. So just right now, there's 8 or 9 elite quarterbacks, right off the board, right off the bat. Let's say
9,
yeah. So I'll add CJ Stroud and Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson and put each of those 3 above him. I'm going to slide Kyler Murray back into that, even because he'll be a half season removed from the injury and I've been playing a little bit. So QB 14, 15 is about as high as I can get him right now, unless somebody face plants, unless Justin Herbert goes out there and gives us another relatively poor season and we start to question him. If Jalen Hurts goes out there and completely regresses, these are things I can't see happening. So I'm just going to put him at QB 14, 15 because I can't see him getting higher than that.
I think that's a fair spot. Tennessee said they are shopping Derrick Henry. Are they just hitting the reset button? And if so, I wonder if it really matters, when it comes to what side, AFC, NFC, if they're bringing the best deal, they just go ahead and trade him and hit the reset completely. And then the next question is what team's the best fit for Derrick Henry right now? Let's go with you, Shane.
So to be fair, Michael Silver said that somebody said, and like I have no reason to doubt Michael Silver, but I've also heard subsequent to that this is one of those cases where, hey, we'll listen to anything, right? I mean, yeah, we'll listen. I can't see. I mean, if you're a team and you think you're a running back away from a championship, I mean, I suppose, you would go out and pay for Derrick Henry. I don't think he'd be cheap, and you have to give something up to get him. I don't see it. I mean, are there teams out there that maybe could benefit from him? Of course. But I think for my purposes as a fantasy manager, him staying put. The grass is always greener on the other side, Derek. Stay where you are, young man. That's where you'll get the workload. Honestly, I don't see anyone making a significant trade. But I mean, the list of teams that need running backs is pretty easy to divine there, right? I mean, Philly is going to need a running back, and someone in my last live stream mentioned Buffalo, which I hadn't really thought of, but Arizona. I mean, my few James Connors here right now would like for him to remain the focal point, but they're going to have to cobble something together until Kyler Murray gets back, and I'm guessing it's going to be a running game. Maybe Jacoby Brissett as the trigger man or something ridiculous like that. So I don't know. I'm pretty skeptical of this one.
Yeah, when I saw it, I didn't know if it was true or not. But news like this comes out, and the first thing I thought of was Miami'd be like the perfect spot for him.
I don't think he would. I don't think this is. I don't think so. They're like a multi. Whether it's the 49ers or now the Dolphins. I mean, they tend to use multiple backs. I don't know. How that. I mean, if you're leaning on Derrick Henry, you want a single back. An offense to use, and maybe they would. Maybe Mike McDaniel will say, I got Derrick Henry. That's all I'm going to do.
Jay, maybe you would know this. Would he even fit their run blocking scheme? Because there's a very particular run blocking schemes.
Right. So I think he would.
Yeah.
I think he would, but I don't. I'm skeptical. Michael Silver is a respected reporter, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, everyone talks this time of year. Like, well, and maybe I would like to know how the question was framed. Would you trade Derrick Henry? Well,
right.
Yes, if you gave us the right stuff, of course we would.
Yeah,
right?
Everything's
there's a lot of that kind of talk goes around.
But I wouldn't mind seeing him in the Eagles if they're willing to take like a third round pick for him.
This is why I didn't ask Shane first, because I knew Shane was like, yep,
well, because
he's coming to the Eagles, baby.
Dude, that offensive line with Derrick Henry behind
that would be the ideal.
The defenses would literally just quit on the field. Like, no, this is not happening.
That should be illegal to even think that way. Well, Bob, it was awesome having you. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell the good people where they can find you, what you got going on this off season, please.
Yeah, find me hanging out with Shane at the Canton at the Expo. But other than that, you can find me at footballdiehards.com. You can find me at the Football Diehards YouTube channel twice a week. Wednesdays at 7, Saturdays at noon. I'll have to get you guys on there. And also on SiriusXM. They've gone into baseball mode. I don't know why. I'm not in charge of that kind of thing. But we're still on Saturday nights, me and Mike Dempsey, at 7 to 9 p.m. And that'll ramp back up once we get through this baseball malaise here and head into the draft month.
That's awesome. I am so glad you were able to join us after your show tonight. Shane, tell the good people where they can find you at, sir.
Here on Wednesdays, periodically. But like, you've invited some of my favorite people on the show, so I have to come. It's a pretty good trick of yours.
I've learned that already.
Dynasty Trades HQ, and then of course Dynasty Trades in 5. Live streaming on Tuesdays for usually an hour and a half. When I tell Clay that I don't feel well, we got to keep it short tonight.
They don't ever have me on that anymore. I used to be on all the time. Now they don't.
Look, all I'm gonna say is there's someone that's not me that's in charge of getting guests together.
It came close a number of times over the course of the season.
I am I like to tell Michael and Jeremy, I'm the talent. I show up. You guys do the other stuff.
I've worked on it. We'll get there.
Mastodon. Yeah, Matt. Shane is the worst, except it's spelled incorrectly. Yeah.
Oh, did you
Mastodon.
spell? I
Check
didn't
me
even
out.
pay attention. Is it spelled wrong?
Yeah, I'm on Mastodon. I spelled Shane as the worst incorrectly, and I can't figure out how to fix it, which is good because no one follows me on Mastodon anyway. But that was
You
just
know
in
what
case
that
Twitter
is.
imploded.
Just in
Like
case.
a band I really love,
Yeah.
Mastodon.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up some music references, but I listened to Bob on his Wednesday night shows on I think it was Wednesday nights when you were doing Sirius XM, right? Yeah, so I
I've
listened.
done a lot of nights.
It was like previous, right before the Super Bowl, and they shoot, who's the co-host on that one? I can't even think of his name right
Dempsey.
now. Is it Dempsey on that coast? Okay.
He
And
literally
he was
just
asking
shouted him
about,
out.
yeah, he was asking about a band, and Bob was like, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. I don't if they weren't born before.
Well, they weren't metal bands, were
They
they?
weren't metal bands.
they weren't
There's
metal
a
bands.
difference. Anything that's
Yeah.
not metal. Like even when I'm on with Fabiano and he's doing the hair metal, I'm just going.
No, it was Fabs. It was Fabs.
It was, okay.
Yeah, it was
get
Fabs.
that
He
trash
was talking
out
about
here with the hair metal. I don't even.
he was talking about Beyonce and Beyonce's songs prior to the Super Bowl.
Like I've been within 3 feet of Beyonce. I don't know that I've ever heard a Beyonce song. All due respect to her, I'm sure she's fantastic and really good at what she does. She is not metal. I have it on good authority.
Very, very much not metal. Yes, that's very right.
Well, guys,
You know what? Before Bob goes, I just want to ask him. Rick Rubin. You know who Rick Rubin is, all right? So
He
you like
produces
Rick
everybody,
Rubin,
though.
right? Okay, all right. But have you ever checked out any of the rap music that he makes?
I love the metal. He's done some like really good metal albums, some phenomenal metal albums.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much been my lane. So no, I have not heard a lot of the rap. I mean, I hear rap, and like Dempsey loves rap, and I like 90s rap. But it's not my lane. The metal's my lane.
you can swerve every now and again. It's allowed.
No swerving.
no swerving from Bob.
I mean, if I'm swerving, it's from death metal to mathcore to thrash to those are that.
There you go.
Very narrow.
So Stone Sour, is that too soft for you?
I'll write with Corey Taylor.
So if that's your emo, okay.
I could listen to that.
All right.
Would rather listen to him in Slipknot, but
Yeah.
I think he's tired of it.
The only difference between Slipknot and Stone Sour is just like, yeah, that's it. And they sing.
No,
softer.
it's more than that. It's more than that. I mean, it's Stone
There's a
Sour
little
is not
less
as
screaming.
hard.
There's a little less screaming.
Right, it's not as hard, and you don't have Jay Weinberg on the drums, and I mean some things I like. I'm a drummer, so I'll go in on every drummer.
Yeah, so we got to get Bob to just lay down the sticks one time for us.
All right.
I mean, I'm down with that. You just have Bob in the background, just banging on the cymbals and on the drums himself. I know I'm saying it all wrong, but
I'll do either.
Yeah. Well, we'll just move the camera. It's easier to move the camera. We'll just take the camera. Boom. Here we go. Well, Mr. Bob Harris, thank you so much for joining us tonight. For Bob, for Shane, I am your boy Jay. We are out.